I thought I saw Brent sitting in the stands at the North Muskegon Whitehall game, but it was actually Joe Grimm.
They do look the same. They do look the same. It's
I'm
true.
going to take that as a compliment.
That's
a
true.
good-looking
Joe Grimm's
dude
a
right
good-looking
there.
dude.
Brent won't wear a sport coat, though.
Welcome back to episode 16 of the CatchMark SportsNet podcast. I'm your host, Zach Swigel, joined here by my co-host, Scott DeVamp and Brent Rath. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks.
And today...
Good morning. It is a morning, right?
It is a morning.
Okay.
Today, we have a special guest. Very special. Special to us. Friend and...
Big shot Bill.
Big shot Bill. in colleague, kind of.
Yeah,
Bill O'Connell.
No, kind of. He is.
No,
Kind of. I thought about wearing my CatchMark
He's
stuff.
announced for us. He's sold for us. He has run cameras for us.
This guy's a jack of all trades, for sure.
Yeah, he's
I'm a sports junkie.
a sports junkie.
That's
That's why
right.
I'm here.
Yeah.
That's right.
So.
Welcome today, Bill. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to kick it off by talking a little bit about yourself. You know, what do you do? How did you get involved in sports, and what do you love so much about sports in general in the West Michigan area?
Obviously, I grew up here my whole life. My dad graduated from Montague. My grandpa graduated from Montague. They were all big in football. Little short story. My dad and grandpa retired the exact same year from football. They used to have that big adult travel league that would go around and play the prisons and
That's
those
crazy.
types of things. My dad was 20-something, and my grandpa was in his 50s, and they
Wow.
retired the same year. Like, my dad because he had to because of knee problems, and my grandpa was like, I think it's time.
I'm not messing with your grandpa. That's for sure.
And he was a running back. My dad was the center.
Wow.
Totally different.
Yeah.
You know, and that was back before like pads, and my grandpa broke his
leather
collar. Yeah, he
helmets
broke his
and-
collarbone in the game, and he just kept going like this and kept playing.
Yeah, that's some
And-
dangerous stuff.
Yeah. So always been here. Bleed blue, obviously. Played football, basketball at Montague. And that was my passion was basketball. Right after high school, got into coaching. I started assisting with Mike Mack on the girls and boys. So he did freshman boys and JV girls. Warren Dirksey was the varsity girls
good old
coach
Warren.
Wow.
at the time. So I'm 19, first year out of high school, helping out coach. And then the next year, Warren retired, and Mike took the varsity job and hired a JV coach that never showed up. So by default,
Are you serious?
I got the JV job,
Wow.
JV girls job.
Who was it?
I have no idea.
It was your destiny, man.
It was. So
This is-
I coached there, JV, and helped out doing boys again down in the junior high, like the B team. Remember the B
Oh,
team?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Coached the B team and that year, and then kind of college. I needed to go to college. I was going to community, so I needed to kind of get my degree all taken care of. But just love sports. I mean, when I have 4 kids. 3 girls, 1 boy. I was destined to have girls because of girls basketball. That's the way I look at
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
And funny story is my oldest daughter, my wife was my assistant coach, literally born in a gym, I would say. My wife went into labor at Oak Ridge during the game, and we rode the bus home
That's
and
a good
then went to the hospital.
That's a good story.
So, and then we're in the hospital, and the entire team shows up the next day. And
That's
the nurse
awesome.
comes in the room. There is a whole gaggle of high school girls coming down the hall to this room, and I'm like, "Yeah, there's our team."
That's the team.
So,
That's
So,
awesome.
Bill he coaches his daughter's team, and they have gym time right before we do on Sundays. And so he doesn't know this, but I ask his girls when they're standing on the sideline, who's a better athlete, him or his wife?
Yep.
And they all said. They said Aaron, Bill. I don't know what to
whatever.
tell you. So like,
I'm gonna call
like,
bluff on that one because
I don't. It wasn't.
my
it
daughter
wasn't
didn't even
Chase.
know.
It
My
wasn't
daughter
Chase.
didn't even know that Aaron played
Really?
basketball. Right? Yes. And I'm like, she played in college, man. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, but do they have the clutch gene? And if they do, they got to get it from him.
Big shot Bill, man. So Bill got that nickname. Like a lot of us, right? Like you get out of high school, you go to MCC, and we'd watch the guys that were below us. So Bill, you were a sophomore when I was a senior, I think.
Correct.
They were the reason that we went into a whole bunch of games like super late. They had a habit of going into like
against
triple,
Shelby
quadruple
mostly.
overtimes, and like we'd be sitting in the locker room like, are we ever going to play again? But as Bill went up to the varsity level, like it seemed like every game we went to, and there needed to be a big shot hit, Bill made it. It was pretty crazy.
And I didn't even
You
score
were a
that
little
much.
clutch, Bill.
I didn't even
was
score that much.
clutch.
It wasn't my job, right? My job wasn't to score. My job was to take care of the ball.
Well,
and
to
pass.
score.
I mean, we had scores. I had scores. I didn't
Yeah.
need to score, but
Unless you needed to.
Well,
right?
yeah,
You didn't need to
if I
score
need
unless
to,
you
I'll-
needed
I'll
to.
score,
like
but-
down the stretch,
Yeah.
like clutch up kind
And I
of
think
thing.
the one that Brent's talking to was the Whitehall game. Schrader and Coverly had both fouled out. Wedberg was our 3-point threat, and
Jeremy was, yeah.
I mean, we had no other. Jeff Johnson was the center
Yeah.
for our
No
team.
way.
Oh yeah, and
He had a
They-
big center.
yeah, big center, really big center. Schrader was taller, but never wouldn't put his butt to the basket. So, they Marcus Williams was guarding me and saw that our play coming. Troy Love was our coach, and was named winner, right?
Yep.
Because you usually ran that play at the end of the game, and they saw Wedberg coming off a double screen, and so he just left, and I was throwing the ball in, threw it down to Marty Ryerson in the
off,
corner,
rolled.
stepped in, he threw it right back to me, and
He
won the
changed
game
his
in
name. It
overtime.
used to be quick
Yeah.
hitter. Did he still call it that, or was that a different
I
one?
don't know. That was winner.
Yeah.
That was at the end of the game.
You could have just changed the name.
7 seconds, and you know how you just watch a movie and
Yeah.
it's like in slow motion, the
Yeah.
ball in the air. That's kind of what it felt like.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
That's sweet to say you hit a game winner. Not
Anyone
every-
else
I mean,
ever hit a game winner or make a game winning play?
I didn't. I had a walk-off home run, but I've never hit a game winner.
I hit a few buzzer beaters, but nothing that won a game.
Yeah.
that was our first time ever beating
I actually
Whitehall.
I hit a couple in
That's
Whitehall
sweet.
the same way too. Like
Yeah.
Whitehall's gym, I love shooting in that gym.
Yeah, it's a
like
sweet
the old
gym.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
The old one. I was
Yeah.
I
watching.
loved it, too.
Have you guys seen that Facebook page from the 92
92
Shelby?
Oh yeah, with Ryan. I
My
saw
brother.
it.
Yeah, my brother was still to this day talks about missing that free
So
throw.
it was funny because I watched it. I don't know how I found the page, but I was watching it with the kids because they were laughing because Brad Tate coaches 7th and 8th grade at Montague, and like I said, that's Coach Tate, and the first thing they said is, why does his head look so big? And why does he have so much hair? But then they were like, oh, he's pretty good. He had a couple threes, and I kept telling them, I think they lose this game because I was at it, and it's hard to remember, but so they did.
They did.
Jason Kennedy from Shelby laid it in at with no time left,
that dude was
right at the
phenomenal.
buzzer. Ryan made 2 clutch free throws, then missed one, and that kind of came off really weird. But the funny thing is I saw Brad at the game. He was doing Booker announcing that night, and I said, all I got out of my mouth was, hey, I watched a video of a game, and he says, if you say Districts 1992, he goes, I'm going to cry. And I said, what? He goes, I don't want to talk about it. And I'm like, Brad, it was like 40 years ago. And he's like, nope, I know exactly what you're going to say. And he goes, I think we would have gone to the regional finals that year if we would have won. And this whole story was
Well, just think about how competitive that district was that year.
well, all of it, yeah.
Every single team
The whole
in there
conference
was
tough.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No, it's a little bit like this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what makes it fun, though, right? Is having a conference that's so competitive. I don't know. That's interesting stuff. So we had this on the agenda a little bit later, but we just talked about Whitehall's gym, and I kind of wanted to brush on, the crowds and some of the old school gyms and gym sizes in general.
Yeah, that's good.
Scott
That's
and I
good.
were in North Muskegon on Friday.
What a great place, though. It's a terrible and great place at the same time.
Just
right?
insane.
just-
it's
So
awful. The
loud.
noise it makes and everything, even
As
how
an
the ball
opponent,
bounces.
But as a basketball person, the
Oh,
way
yeah.
the way it sounds, and if you're a home team, you're
Right.
like, this is
It was
awesome.
nuts. I mean, it was actually crazy how many people were there, packed into that gym.
It could only
And-
been 200,
Right.
because that's all that
Right.
fits.
It doesn't
So-
fit very
But
much.
it was just full, to the max. People standing around and stuff. It was sweet, and it reminded me of how every game used to be
Yeah.
when I was growing up. Right, you'd go watch a game at the old Whitehall High School or
Oh,
really
yeah.
anywhere, and it would just be absolutely just packed with people.
Well, and the old Whitehall gym was the only gym in the area that had seating behind
behind it.
Yeah.
It was
Bleachers,
so
and the
cool.
visiting team always went that way in the second
Yeah,
half.
Yep.
right. Which
Right?
is sweet.
Which is a definite advantage for
Yeah.
the home team.
It's
Yeah.
true. Puffer has a section like that now, and I mean their gym's a lot bigger, but I do wish that schools kind of incorporated that
Yeah,
a little
Muskegon
bit more.
does, yeah.
Yeah,
Muskegon too,
Puffer
yeah.
was really the first come in at the top, go down. I remember when they built that. It was
Yeah.
probably in 98, 99.
Really?
Something like
Is
that. I would say
old?
that. Yeah, because
Wow.
Yeah, because they had their old gym had one set of bleachers that looked kind of like Whitehall, but it went up really high. which I thought. I mean, at the time, we always thought it was huge,
Right.
right? Like we're like, this
Yeah,
is
'cause
a
we
big
played summer
gym.
ball there.
Yeah. So, they built that. They were really from what I can remember, the first team in the area that had, I would call it a more modern, like, sports center gym where and I remember everybody talking about, oh yeah, you come in, it's like a bowl, and like you kind of go down. But yeah,
It is cool. I mean,
But they all feel the same now.
No, it's
every
true.
gym feels the same.
yeah.
I mean, you go into any gym now, they all kind of feel the same.
I think like 80% of the gyms are too big. I really do.
Well, and so you gotta think too big for what, and I think that's a key question. If you're 1,000% right when you talk about too big for the crowds, right? But I think the crowds have dwindled for a different reason. I still think even if you had the crowds you had back in the 80s and 90s, early 2000s, it still would be too big for that. But when you look at practicing and use during the week, they're not too big.
No,
They're-
I was
they-
speaking.
Yeah, but for the crowds, absolutely. And if there was a way you could kind of manage that and keep it a little bit smaller, because and we were at Hart Shelby at Hart. Hart's gym is like the perfect size.
Yeah, it is a really
for
good
teams
size.
in our conference, right? Like.
and it's still got Oldfield School.
Yeah,
It does.
too.
It does.
It
It
does.
absolutely does. And like, it's not too big, but it seats a lot of people. It got loud in there for that game. The stands were packed. But you go someplace like Shelby's new gym, and Shelby was known for packing the old barn that they had. My dad used to talk about that being the biggest gym in the conference forever. But that new gym, man, like you just can't fill that thing. Like it feels cavernous in there.
It's so big.
But
Well, it's just like Whitehall never pulls out all their bleachers.
No,
at
yeah,
their new
it's the
gym
same
because
concept. It's way too big, in my opinion. I just miss the environment. I understand from a usage, practicing standpoint. Like you're right. Like the bigger gyms are.
yeah,
really
there's not
nice.
enough gyms around. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
and other sports too, right? Like volleyball, you can play, sideways, 2 courts and
3 courts, 4
wrestling.
courts,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Like there's a lot of reasons for for that. I miss that environment.
Well, yeah, because you get into North Muskegon, you're like, it is crazy loud in here. This is awesome.
Yep.
And you're like, that's what you miss, right? Like that kind of you're right on top of everybody thing. So.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's interesting. Bill and I were talking before we started here, and he brought up Ludington's gym. I don't know if you guys have been up there or not. I'm sure.
I
It's been a
have
long time. I
Ludington's
saw Country
gym's-
Day play
Yeah,
there.
it's
When, I
nice.
think when Battier
Ludington's
came
gym
through.
is so old school. It's so
Shane
awesome.
It
Battier
is.
played there
Okay.
with Country Day the one time when I
Yeah.
went up there. It's
I mean, the
a long time ago.
windows,
Yeah, no, it's
the
old school.
windows,
It's sweet.
the wooden
Chad
bleachers
Holmes
still.
play. That's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll be seeing more of that gym, in the next year.
Yeah. OV has a nice gym. So what gym in the West Michigan Conference do you like the best? There's a good question. I'm gonna put on Bill to
Well,
start.
I mean, as a player when I played, it was our gym. I loved our gym, even though it's tiny.
No, now.
But now, as a coach, I actually liked going into Shelby.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was I don't think there's an advantage for Shelby, and it's a great
Interesting.
jumping and shooting gym.
Yeah.
It really is. I don't know. Hart's a tough place to play. Mason County's is like too dark
Yeah.
Mason
for some
County's is
reason.
weird.
It's just dark.
I do
right?
say they have a good amount of seating, though.
I like Mason Counties actually.
Yeah,
Like,
I can see that.
but I've never played or shot in there either. What about you, Zach? What do you think?
I love the old school stuff. I did have to go with North Muskegon or Hart. I don't know if I could pick one. They each have their, their
Which gym did
pros
you
and
like to
cons.
play in the best?
North Muskegon.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Because it reminded me a lot of the old
old school.
Whitehall gym. Yeah,
Yeah.
which I love. It's my favorite
What
gym.
about you, Scott?
I like North Muskegon's gym the
Yeah,
most. I do.
geez, 2 North
Just that
Muskegon's,
intimate setting, but also in terms of playing in, I go way back to the middle school days to junior high when we played at Oak Ridge and you played on what doubled as the cafeteria floor.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
we
And
did
you're
too at
worried,
Montague.
and you're worried,
Montague's was terrible. It was
and the
tile
wall.
and
You don't
like,
even have room to even inbound
Yep.
the ball because you're
Yep.
up against the wall,
Yeah.
and you got to put your feet sideways so you're not.
It's
in
when
the
don't buy
play.
good basketball shoes because it wouldn't matter.
Yeah,
And,
right,
and- and
exactly.
don't slip on that green bean that's over there
Yeah.
either.
We had pieces of tile missing and
Oh,
but Montague's middle school gym was terrible for
What
years.
about Hart? I remember we played like downtown. It wasn't even by their
Oh
school. It was
yeah,
in
and the old gym downtown.
Yeah,
Yeah, with the stage.
I don't remember that.
That was old school. Yeah, you
That was
probably
really
did
I think
too,
Kent
Scott.
City's was like that too.
Yeah, like it was like it was like a gym before they knew what gyms were. Like it was crazy, man.
like the old Hoosier style
Yeah,
gym.
that's exactly how it was. Like you were the seats were raised up on
Elevated?
Yeah, it was nuts.
Huh?
But
That's kind of cool.
I would say old school gym. I really liked Whitehall. Like I know I'm a Montague guy, and
Yeah,
I
no.
shouldn't
I
say
always
that.
played well
I
at
always
Whitehall.
played well at Whitehall. I always shot the ball well. I liked the floor. I liked
That's a
the
great
atmosphere.
gym, dude. That middle school's a gym.
And it's the same reason. Like it's got that old school.
It did.
vertical roof kind of.
Plus the floor. You can spring.
Right.
It's got springy floor.
New school
Trampoline
gyms. Boy, for me, it's got to be a tie between probably Hart and North Muskegon.
Yeah.
I like Montague's gym. It's a good size, but the ceiling's too low. And there's some other things that I like. I would like to see in
Well,
there.
it's not really a new gym either, right? Like you
Right.
can
They
still see
extended the floor, but
you
it's
can still see where the old floor ended and the new floor started.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And
It
I
is
mean, they
small.
did their best there, but I actually like Montague's gym better the way it was, to be honest with
did
you.
too.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird to say because it was a less useful gym, I think, because the stage was like a foot and a half away from the.
yeah, they had to back
basket.
the defender up.
Yeah.
They had to
Yeah.
get you the 3 feet. Like
Yeah.
you could,
Yeah, but I loved it when they'd open the end and you could have people sit in there. But
That's sweet.
yeah,
Doesn't part of it depend on how good these teams you are that you're going in and playing against too? Because I remember going to North Muskegon and the Hutcherson brothers were
oh
playing.
yeah,
My gosh. Rondell was spotting up from the volleyball line and hitting shots from there.
yeah.
He was really good.
Have you been in Fremont's gym?
I have.
I actually really like Fremont's. It's,
Nice.
it's new.
Nice.
Their whole
It's new,
school's
yeah.
beautiful.
That-
Did you,
yeah.
Have you been in OVs? I like OVs.
Yeah, OV.
These are nice.
Actually, I would
They're
say very
similar.
similar.
Yeah. But they're all kind of going that route.
No,
because
that's
it makes
true, for
sense,
sure.
So
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
You add a bunch of spectator space. And
It's kind of like the Reese Puffer thing where you walk down into the
Yeah,
bowl.
Yeah.
That's how
That
OV
kinda
was.
set
that's
up.
that's where it started for
Yeah.
sure. Anyway, we probably should quit talking about gyms. Talk about gyms for 20 minutes. Bill, you've coached girls and you've played enough. I mean, you know how guys work,
Yep.
right? Most recently, you coached with Cody Cater at
Yep.
Montague, who is now back from Georgia at Reese Puffer, which we've talked about on this pod quite a few times. Before we get into the girls versus guys debate, I want to know how you think Cody's going to do at Reese Puffer and how excited you are to have him back.
Well, coaching with him for the last 3 years, you got to know him really well, and knowing Cody and knowing how his passion, he's going to do just fine. It's going to take some time. Obviously, it's building a culture.
Yeah,
it's getting it to his standards, obviously. But yeah, he's going to do just fine, and he's already building a staff. I mean, getting
Yeah, he's got some
getting
good
Alex
hires.
already coming in,
Yeah.
and
He's on top of it.
he is, and it was always a dream to coach with Alex. That's what he always said, even last year when he was
I
talking
remember
about
him
stuff.
talking about it. Yeah.
Yep, and I think it was good for him to kind of go away to
Absolutely.
see the different part and different how football's done differently, and then come back here and take on a job that's going to be hard,
Yeah.
Yep.
right?
Okay, so you were around when you left Montague and he was at Muskegon, went to Georgia, came back, and now Muskegon's one of the big rivals, the teams he's got to beat. What's that going to be like?
Well, I've already heard that. Coach down there is not too happy, and I've heard that from the West Ottawa staff.
I can't imagine that Shane would be upset about that.
I've heard that from the West Ottawa staff.
Shane's not going to like
Like,
anybody in the
my brother
OK
coaches
after it's all
with
done.
Pat now.
Shane's
so.
a little bit like Jordan, though. Like he's gonna find reasons why why he doesn't like you or why and I think it's a competitive edge. And it's why he's so good too.
Yeah, right.
He's going to try to hang 70 on Coach.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, just to go. Yeah. See, there you
How
go.
do you think that's all going to work, that dynamic? It's obviously been Muskegon and Shores as far as in the city, but is there room for Reese Puffer to also be really dominant?
Well, I mean, back when I was in school, and
they were
you were
good.
they were
They were
phenomenal.
good, yeah.
I mean, they had the
But I
the
just wonder,
stars
is it-
and the
I mean,
all
kids
those guys.
might jump from school to school, but is there enough to go around?
I like everybody that I've talked to about Puffer is that there's athletes there. It's just a matter of bringing
sleeping
it's
giant.
culture. It's just culture, I think, and I think Cody will bring that.
He's one of those guys. He's the guy that everybody wants to be around, right? Like he just brings people to you. Like he's just that type of personality. He walks in the room and you're like, need to hang out with that guy, right? And that's just Cody's personality. He's gonna do that at Reese Puffer. Like he'll get the most out of those kids. Just like I think Brent and I've always talked about Michigan State football and Michigan football. Michigan football is always recruiting 5-star, 4-star athletes. Michigan State's recruiting 3-star guys or 2-star guys and turning them into great players. Why? Because they wanted to be around Antonio. They wanted to, they're getting the most out of those guys from the start. So I think that's what Cody's going to do.
No.
I think it's going to take him some time. He's going to have to get comfortable with
It would
losing
take
for a
anybody
little
some
bit.
time, though. To be fair, especially when you're entering into a league like that.
Yeah, not to mention the Zealand schools in there too.
Oh, yeah.
No.
They're
Well,
really
but
good.
you said, is there room for it? I mean, look at the West Michigan Conference, right? Like, there was a time when there was Montague, Oak Ridge, Ravenna were all good. Shelby was not bad. Shelby's gone to the semis a few years ago. Now, historically, they've kind of, but North Muskegon doesn't field bad football teams. And, so I think that there's plenty of room for great football across the board. Like, some of the worst teams in the West Virginia Conference go out and win playoff games because they're playing against a great competition. I don't think it could be any better. For
it's that iron sharpens iron thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting for sure.
And he's young. He's young. He's energetic. He brings a lot of that.
He's motivated.
He's just in practices with the girls basketball team, right? I mean, he's. We would do things over Christmas break. We'd do a 3-on-3 tournament and all that stuff. And he's competitive. I'm competitive. And I'm old though, so right.
My question is he going to make time to play Sunday basketball with you guys?
I've already talked to him about it. We'll see.
I'm sure he will.
He's dirty though. He pinches and scratches. And,
that's what you were saying.
And he doesn't need to because he's good. I can't believe I just said that on air. But he is. He's legit. But. I love that about him though too.
And he's always wearing sweatpants.
He's always wearing sweatpants. He's always, I do have to give a shout out to old Randall though. Randall Lindquist, former standout at Montague from 1964, I think, or something like that. Randy will appreciate that. He showed up this weekend and was dominating. He's still got some skills for a 60-year-old dude.
Osborne wasn't there though.
Dave didn't show up. I gave him crap. I had talked to him at practice last night, and he said he's the one that convinced Randy to show up, and then he didn't show up. It was kind of funny. But, yeah, not a lot of old guys up there. I think it's fun. One thing I liked, and we don't have it on the agenda, but to talk about was I think there needs to be more of that. What I mean by that is, growing up, playing with a wide range of age groups, and there's a line, you can't bring a sixth grader into a practice with men, right? But just having some of those younger guys play with the older guys and it's just I think it teaches stuff that you can't teach in a practice.
Well, that's Township. That was what Township was for us.
That's funny. It is actually further down. I want to talk about the generational difference in sports nowadays and kids being so one-dimensional. It's always one sport, or they have, they're hyper focusing on this or that, and it's those Township Park days have kind of gone by the wayside. That's what you used to do, at least me, even me, every day in the summer.
Every day.
There was, if you wanted to play, baseball or football or somebody's yard, or we always go to this school, or we always go to, there was always something, but there wasn't so much organized stuff.
Well, what it did was forced you to organize yourself.
Right.
And it taught you life skills in the process, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you, Kara coaches, and she has open gyms for soccer and stuff, and she's just oftentimes amazed. They come in and these kids don't know, if she doesn't organize, they're looking to her to organize a pickup game, and she's like, I brought the goals, I opened the gym, organize and take care of it. We always had a process for getting teams together and how we did that.
Yeah.
It's different.
It's true. It is. It definitely is.
Well, that's my sixth grade girls. That's how they come into practice. They want to play against each other.
Yeah.
They're like, Coach, pick teams, and I'm like,
you pick teams.
I'm like, just shoot for it or do whatever. Pick teams. You guys know who's good, who's not, and who matches up well against each other. Just do that.
That's true.
You don't need me to do it.
True. And you're right about the, playing with older players too, right? When you play pickup basketball, just for an example, that happens. You go down to Township, you might be playing with kids that are 4 or 5 years older than you.
Yeah. I specifically remember I might have been a junior, and it was Christmas break. Somebody got the gym open, and Eric Webb, standout for Montague. Eric was a great guard, just a phenomenal basketball player. And I remember Eric coming in, and I was thinking, I'm getting better. I can't. And Eric just abused me, just abused me the entire open gym. And I started thinking, I'm like, how do I get like that? Because I am obviously not where I need to be. And Eric was probably mid-20s at the time. I think he's 4 or 5 years older than I am. I think, but it was just learning okay, how do I do that? And then the older guys didn't put up with crap either, right? You were going to play basketball in a certain way.
That was part of the process.
Yeah,
all that was part of the process.
Then they're grown men at that point too,
right?
There's all those things, and they've learned some things along the way,
right? I think egos are gone, and more teamwork is there, and I mean, playing with, because we got young guys that come up on Sundays. The things that I notice is they don't talk; they stand and watch a lot, and I'll be honest with you, I've seen improvement with those kids that come up there from the start to the finish already, like with aggressiveness and how they do that. But yeah, it's different.
Well, that was Scott Lindquist for me, right? Like
geez,
township,
Scott
I'm in
was
like
so
7th,
good.
8th grade. I'm dribbling. I think I'm pretty good. I'm dribbling the ball down, and all of a sudden the ball was gone. I didn't even know what happened. And
Scott was so good.
Scott's going the other way, and but that's how you got better, right?
No,
you played against those guys.
true.
I tagged along with my brother everywhere, right? He's 4 years older than me, and he was playing with those guys all the time. I'd jump in wherever he's going to play open gym. I was going with him
For sure, and it's funny how that same concept continues all the way through your childhood, right? When you're 8 years old, you're playing with the 12 and 13-year-olds, and you can't wait till you can you're good enough to like shoot the ball. Right now, you're just passing and screening, and and then you get to 15 years old, and you're playing with the 20. There's always something to work for and somebody to learn from. I don't know. I just really miss that stuff.
I mean, I remember just wanting to get into a gym so I could just stand on the side and shoot, like
Right.
because I knew I wasn't going to get to play because I wasn't old enough, but I just wanted to be there. You know what I mean? Like I'll shoot around and watch the game happen because. So yeah, I think that's a big. I don't know. How do you compete for that attention though?
Yeah.
That's the tricky part. I mean, it's not just the year-round focus of all sports. It's also there's more attention grabbers now, right? Like kids can't be bored. They've got devices and they've got things. And again, we're a tech company, so I mean. I'm not going to blame the tool. I'm going to be like, okay, how do you balance that and work that into?
Yeah, how do you figure it out?
So
I do think that there's a lot of situations where kids are playing as much as they were back then. You still play. They're playing AAU tournaments, and it's not like they're not playing necessarily. It's just the importance of the different types of playing.
yeah,
But sometimes those, watching those AAUs or whatever, there's these dream teams that people put together just so they can go win, right?
And they're not learning basketball.
They're not really learning basketball. Yep. And then you got these other teams that are like the school team. They're getting destroyed by that.
Yep.
Yeah,
that super team. And it's not. I mean, some of these AAU tournaments just aren't where you think they should be, right?
Yep. And in open gym, the fundamentals kind of are what runs those games, right? It's the boxing out, and it's the being a good rebounder. It's the
and those old guys hold you accountable. Like I remember Rob Smith, like to bring back a blast from the past. Like Rob, he's a coach. He's a successful coach now in Lansing. Like he's won some state titles but Rob, when you played basketball with him, he wanted you to play in a specific way, and he was not afraid to tell you, like to the point where you got like abrasive a few times. Like I don't need a coach. But what he was saying wasn't wrong. And if I step back and I look at from a humility perspective, I learned a lot, right? Like, okay, don't just stand and watch, move, and So
I learned a lot from that dude. I mean, he was my coach my sophomore year for basketball, and he was young, right, just out of college or whatever, and we started practice right after school, and even though the freshman team was supposed to be practicing,
so glad I never had a coach.
Well, man, one kid, somebody forgot their practice jersey. We jogged to their house.
Yeah,
that was pre-practice.
No, I believe it.
And we told one guy.
Where did he live, Bill?
He lived down Cook Street, kind of towards Old Channel Trail, and it was definitely a few mile jog. That was pre-practice. Then you have your 2-hour practice.
Yeah.
We told one guy if he ever forgot his practice jersey, just quit.
Yeah.
Because he lived so far out.
You're like, not happening.
Yeah, just quit. Because we're not jogging to your
But
house.
everybody suffered as a team, and then you kind of you hold each other accountable.
And,
right?
and honestly, I didn't play. I didn't play a lot as a sophomore.
Yeah.
Right. He moved my position. I moved from guard to post, and I wasn't very big. And all these freshman guys came up because that freshman class was phenomenal athletes at the time, and they all moved up and they took a lot of our roles. But how many stayed with it? 2?
Yeah.
I think we had 2 guys after that year. I mean, tryouts for Rob were suicides until you started puking.
Yeah.
And guys quit. They would walk out. They
It's
just walked out.
It's a good way to eliminate the herd.
You're going to see who's gonna be there.
Back to your earlier point too about chemistry, where you can have like an all-star team. You'll see it in the NCAA tournament sometimes where you'll have maybe a mid-major guys who've been playing together for 4 years. They got some veteran guys where they play maybe a high major like at Kentucky or something where they got one and dones constantly, and maybe the chemistry's not as good. That's why there is still room for those. That's why it's fun to watch those mid-majors in the tournament because guys that maybe you've never heard of, but more than anything, chemistry. Yeah. They've been playing together for so long.
Well, you think of like VCU back in the day, Gonzaga back in the day, most recently Loyola now, right? Like they're older, they played together, they got senior led, and all these other guys are freshmen, sophomores, right? They're great players, but they just don't play well together. They're a lot of individualism.
It is. I'm excited for March Madness. I really am.
That's awesome.
I am too.
It's like my favorite time of the year. Like it.
tried to get-
sports.
I
How
tried
many,
to
how
get
many of these
tickets.
TVs
Really?
have basketball going on when we're during March Madness?
We do watch it. I mean, it's on.
Yeah.
We usually do a bracket too.
I feel like everybody kind of watches it like throughout the day. You like check it on your phone or you.
Well,
yeah.
they have that
Not-
boss mode on your computer. You can watch it on your computer, and then you just hit the boss mode. And it shows like a fake email. I used to do that.
Yeah.
So when it was
It's so
going
much
on.
easier to watch it nowadays, though. I mean, back in the
Yeah,
day, you
right.
had to have like cable service. Now it's streamed wherever.
I remember watching it on the fat TVs in school. You
Yeah.
know, we'd
Oh,
always try
yeah.
to like find a classroom where we could watch one. I don't know, it's kind of interesting. So I want to talk real quick. I brought this up earlier, but the difference between coaching guys and girls. And the last couple of weeks, I've been watching. excuse me, a lot of girls basketball. I've just been in a couple games, and I've noticed that when girls make mistakes, turn the ball over, dribble it off their foot, make a bad pass, like it's common to see like laughter. Like that's how they
They handle it
process
different.
it.
yeah,
they handle
right.
it different.
And my initial reaction to that always is like, why are you laughing? But I've noticed that it's not one person, it's not one team. It's a very common, not every
Right.
girl, but it's a very common reaction to making a mistake. And I was talking to a friend about this, and they're like, yeah, girls handle things differently. And I've never coached girls. I really have no idea. But I kind of wanted to get some insight from
Well,
somebody.
yeah, guys handle it totally different. They're gonna get mad at themselves. They're gonna kind of beat themselves up, and they're gonna think about it maybe even a little bit longer. Girls, because of volleyball, right? I mean, so volleyball is a huge sport. Volleyball's up and down all the time. So I think girls handle it like volleyball, right? Emotions are a roller coaster with them. So if they dribble off their foot, they're like, right? Last year's team for us, they wouldn't have done that, right? They're just different mentality girls. Brickell and Andy and
Sure,
all that,
yeah.
and Emma, they're not going to handle it that way. They're not going to laugh it off. But a lot of them do, because it's maybe even a nervous habit too, right? Just to laugh or to smile it off and go, where guys are going to beat themselves up a little bit more. Girls, though, I've coached girls my whole life, right? And everybody's like, learning it, right? Cody even had to learn that. He thought he was going to come in and go, well, I'm just going to teach them how to play like guys, right? And it's not that way, right?
Yeah.
You have to kind of direct them all the time, right? Guys go out and play. Girls need the guidance, need the structure more than anything else. And not all girls. I'm not going to say that. Like Sophie, that girl, she was awesome, right? And she's proven it in college right now at the D1 level. But a lot of girls, like, you just little things like, hey, get over here, get over to this spot, and you make them successful that way. Where guys, you kind of just coach them up, teach them in practice, and you don't have to do a lot of that stuff when they're playing.
I think because the first coaching job I ever had was girls, and for me it was girls typically generally want to listen to what you're saying. So like when you explain what's going on, they're attentive. Like I had 8th grade boys basketball practice last night. You start trying to explain something and balls start dribbling and guys just wander off, and it's this weird confidence that sometimes is wrong.
Right.
So it's good and bad both ways. But I remember the first time I think I had a second game. I coached 7th grade girls and came in the locker room, and I was kind of getting after them a little bit. I wasn't what I thought yelling. Like every single girl in the room cried. Every single one. And I'm like, as a 20-something-year-old guy, I'm like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? I didn't even know what to do, but like understanding that difference, like, okay, I have to handle this and go into this a little bit different. It's interesting. My wife will always say all you gotta do is watch an open gym where boys and girls are there. She says the boys come in and they're shooting half court shots and they're trying
That's
to
their
dunk,
warm-up.
and
That's their warm-up.
they're trying to grab the rim, and she said the girls will always partner up and they'll pass back and forth. They'll do. She goes, all you have to do is watch an open gym or even an open practice. And for soccer, guys are trying to blast it in and kick it through the net, right? She says it's just a different. Like you said, it's not 100% universal. But
No, it's never.
So having said that, what's the easier transition, going from coaching girls to boys or boys to girls?
Boy, that's a great question.
That is a
Scott.
good question. I think concepts obviously are all the same, right? I think learning that. So going from varsity girls to maybe middle school boys, kind of the same. There's no transition. I think boys probably maybe are even a little easier. You can put a little bit more on them, play-wise and stuff, because they're going to grasp it. You can draw something up on a board, and they're going to be like, oh, I got it, and they're going to go out there. So
and then forget what you just told them.
Well, yeah, that's common. But I mean, I'm thinking at the varsity level, right? Like you can say, okay, we're going to do this, and you know, you can get after a guy a little bit more. Where girls, you have to pick who you can, right? There's some that you can, some that you can't, some that you can handle differently, and that's just learning those girls.
Sure.
I mean, flat out, just learning who can do what. Like Mackenzie Bortel, phenomenal player, right? I could kind of get after her a little bit more, where maybe somebody else on the team, same team, I couldn't. Right? You just couldn't. You kind of had a little differently because maybe there's something going on in their lives or boyfriend issues or whatever, right? Where guys don't think about that, right? Guys don't think about the girlfriend issues or the whatever.
Yeah, I feel like girls you have to be more relational with them too.
For sure.
Right? Like they're more concerned about like having that relationship, where a boy, they're walking out of practice, they don't think one more second about you. Right? Like they're going on to do whatever they're going to do, and like I think so. That's a little bit of a trend.
Yeah, and that's what I think Cody succeeded with that group last year, right? Yeah. Like he was very like they would come to him for a lot of stuff, and he built that relationship with them, and he was just really good at it.
You guys lost to Newaygo last year in the regional. Is that a game that you look back and you look at the run Newaygo made? How many times do you ask yourself, could we have done that same thing?
They got lucky with their run. Obviously, with Abby from
West Catholic.
West Catholic.
Dykstra, too. Neither Dykstra nor
right. I mean,
Abby
both
Kimball
of them
played.
Yeah, both of their two best players, their only really great scorers, both were out with COVID, right? So
and that still ended up being a tight game.
It still ended up being a tight game. And then, you know, you look at everything else. I can't remember what was the team in Detroit that was just unstoppable that had to forfeit.
Country Day.
Yeah, Country Day had to forfeit in the districts because they were like.
No, it was Edison.
That's
that
right.
was unstoppable.
Yeah,
and they played Country Day in the semis or something like that.
But they had to forfeit a game.
There you go again.
What?
You're like the Rain Man of sports.
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
Edison had, but they had the Miss Basketball.
Special.
Miss Basketball was on that team. Was on Edison's team, and for like the last 3 years. Right, they've had Miss Basketball for like the last 3 years off that team.
Good? Like
no, it was different girl.
They're just a powerhouse.
They were just a powerhouse, and they had to forfeit. It was like basically theirs to lose, right?
It was a COVID
COVID
forfeit.
I
knew the West Catholic. I didn't know.
I mean, we were in districts, and we heard that they lost or they had to forfeit, and we're like, what?
I remember actually I was at Spring Lake. I think I told you guys that after you won your district. I said,
against Whitehall.
Or they just got bumped. Yeah, they got.
So does it taint the victories though? Like if you're
no,
a coach?
It's not going to taint anything. Oh no, I mean you got to have those pieces fall into place, right? Like,
and don't get me wrong, Newaygo was good. I thought
Newaygo was really good. The Long sisters are good. You know,
and so was the Gooden girl.
Yep, she's really good. She was surprisingly good. I'd watch her on tape and I'd be like,
sneaky good.
Yeah, I'd watch her on tape and I'm like, Andy can shut her down, whatever, you know. But she was more athletic in person than on tape. So. Nice. But that one hurts because I know we could have won that game.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, Cody and I look back on it. We can't dwell on it. We say that. I was texting him back and forth during Newaygo's run and going. But yeah, you just can't dwell on it. Like pieces doesn't fall place for us. The shots didn't fall. It just happens, right? Yep. And I say we play them again. I'd say we split with them every time. I'd say it'd be 50-50. If we played 10 games, we'd win 5. They'd win 5. I think that's how even matched we really are.
Interesting.
So,
game of the week.
See stuff. Game of the week. Bill is going to be calling that game.
You're announcing?
Actually,
I'm announcing that game.
That's the first I found out. Nice.
With Cal, yeah.
And with Cal,
nice. We got him back off the bench.
The duo,
when he heard Connor and Tate one day, he's texting me, calls me. He's like, "What's going on, man?
Yeah, did I get fired or what?"
And I'm like, "No, we're trying to do this youth movement. You know, like get the young guys out there, and
they're doing a great job.
They actually do.
They're
really good.
They're fun to listen to. You know, you got the Tate Stein voice.
He's talented.
He's
good. And Connor's kind of more the play-by-play, the stat guy.
Connor absolutely.
I noticed, by the way, when you interviewed Tate and Tug the other day. Tate's just extremely confident now. He always has been, but even more so now.
He's cracked me up. Those two. I wanted to. So I first, Owen walked out of the locker room and he's like, I said, "Who should I interview?" And he goes, "Tug." So then Tug comes out and he's like, "I can't interview because I don't have a voice." And so he goes, "You need to interview Tate." So then Tate comes out and then they're both together. And I'm like, "What? well, whatever, we'll do this. Like, let's figure it out. And then the video went up, and I didn't even realize that it cut off halfway through because I uploaded so fix that up. But yeah, they were great. They're both funny in a different way, So.
Yeah, they are.
But no, that's awesome. We're getting
Yeah.
Big
Cal.
game
Kind of a
Thursday,
big
though.
game.
Yep.
And Cal, so I've done play-by-play, or I've been doing the play-by-play now, which this will be my fourth time.
You do a great job, by the way.
And
you do.
it'll be my fourth time. And the first time I did it, it was girls, so I knew the girls team. I knew the Montague team really well.
Yeah.
And the Oak Ridge, I knew some of their players, obviously. But Cal adds so much. You
Oh,
can
yeah,
tell
they're
he's a
great.
total professional. I did
Oh,
the
they-
one game, that Comstock Park boys game with Jeff Peterson, and it was just a little clunky because Jeff hasn't done it in so long.
Yeah. No. That makes
Right?
sense.
And because he used to broadcast our games.
Yep.
When
Yep.
I was in school, I think it just it'd been a long time.
Yeah.
And Cal, you can tell he's just a professional, and
Yeah.
I'm not
Cal
trying
and
to take
John
John's spot at all. John's amazing too,
Yeah.
and how to do that. Like it takes me through the second quarter to figure out
Yeah.
rosters, right?
Yeah.
And names, and Cal
John
can name every name, and he's like, "Oh, I
John's the
used to
same
call
way.
their dad."
John's got a photographic
John
memory.
will like it's amazing. Like he reads it once and he's like, "Yep, I got
Yeah,
it."
John's insane.
I'm whenever I have to do it, I'm constantly like, "Oh no."
Cal's really good about
Number
filling
15.
voids.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
he is.
That's what's hard. Like I think that as a color guy, like a color commentator, it's difficult because
You don't want to
you're
step.
You don't
Yeah,
want to step on
exactly.
people, right?
and you don't know what I don't know when to talk or when not to, and what to say in
Mm-hmm.
each area. And he just like, I mean, I'm like, that's a great point. That's what I think every time he
Yeah.
says something.
And then he'll tap you when he wants to say something, so you
Yep.
can kind of fill into him, or he'll just keep keep rolling.
Yeah.
You're going.
Got
And,
some hand signals.
yeah, he's really good. He I think the first game I did, he bought me M&Ms because
Oh,
that's what
that's his
John
ritual.
That's what
Yeah.
John always has to eat. He goes, I get peanut, you get plain. That's the
Yep.
ritual. So I was like, well, I'm not going to break that. So
He brought me candy hearts. So
Did he
he's,
really?
he's on my list.
I-
Paying attention.
He's paying
I thought
good
about
dude.
it. I thought about buying you candy hearts for today.
He can't.
honestly.
Carrie gets mad.
I-
She-
I
He
know.
doesn't need any candy.
I
a
know,
big
I have a
bowl, like a
problem.
huge bowl of candy hearts.
So can we all agree that Whitehall is the team that the conference championship goes through right now?
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Every time.
I don't want to count Ravenna out because Ravenna's
You
still
shouldn't.
there, but I think head to head, Whitehall's got that now, right?
Well,
Or
they
did
tied.
split.
They split.
Okay, well then
But
Yeah.
Whitehall's playing really well right
Well,
now.
playing
playing
good
well.
basketball. Yeah.
And I mean, you asked me before, who do you think's going to win that game? And I'm like, it all depends on Montague. If Montague comes out hitting shots, Montague's dangerous.
Yeah.
yeah.
But if Montague doesn't hit shots, Whitehall's going to blow them out.
I feel like
also-
athletically, Montague's the one. Montague or Ravenna are the two teams in the conference that really match up with Whitehall.
No, that's
and
true.
Can match them, I think, positionally
That's
pretty
true.
well. But
You got to get on the boards because that's
Yes.
what
yes,
that's what's killed. That's what I think. That's the difference for Whitehall. Obviously,
is.
Camden Thompson's a big part of that, but I think just getting on the boards. That's what killed North Muskegon.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting second, third, fourth chances, and it's repeated.
how about
I-
Cam doing all the dirty work though too? Like
The
I mean,
kid's an
talk
animal.
about a kid that like he just digs in and
he
does
did
it all.
everything Friday except for stay long enough for the post game interview.
Yeah, that was funny. That whole transition in your stuff on social media was hilarious, right? Like he's in the hot tub and Stouts get, that was
Dude,
awesome.
like every single reporter was like, "What?
Where did he go?
Like, who drops 30 and then dips? Like, what's wrong?"
Well,
with
here's
this
the
kid,
thing:
you know?
rookie mistake by me, but also maybe miscommunication all the way around. So I got a picture of James Young and Camden Thompson together because they're
yeah.
friends.
I
And
was
all
going to
this
ask
stuff.
you about that. Like, how'd you get a picture and not an interview?
Well, that's what happened, and because before that, Zach and I are like, Zach's like, I'll get Whitehall, I'll get North Muskegon. So I assumed, I'm not going to get Camden because he already got him. So I assumed it was done, or it was going to happen.
Yep.
So I went over the other side of the gym to get Ripstra. And then I come back, and those guys are sitting out there that said Cam left. I go, well, did you get him? They're like, no, he left.
So-
I go, oh, man, we had him.
When you do post game interviews, like you try to do it with all the other reporters, so coaches
Yeah.
don't have to answer the same
Yeah,
questions
same
15
questions 50
times.
times, yeah.
So we were all together, and we talked to Christian, and we all get done, and it was a little longer than we
He's a
than we thought.
freshman. I mean, you get like he
But
got,
so everybody was in the same boat. If somebody got an interview from Friday, it was because they called them,
yeah.
outside of the game.
And Van
That's
Dyke
too
got him.
funny.
He had a quote from him, and then I got – so Stout posted that Facebook
I figured you'd
post.
be in the hot tub getting your interview. Like,
Right.
I mean, you got connections.
You know,
there, right?
you laugh about this, but I was ready to take a camera over to wherever that kid was at Friday night and get a quick video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cam's such a good kid too. Like, I mean, he'd have been like, "Yep, no problem."
But that's funny, though. I can totally see this Stout gets home from the game, and all of a sudden he gets home, and
Abrams
Camden's
and
chilling in
Cameron
his
in
hot
the-
tub.
Everyone's
hot tub.
freaking out about where Cam's at. He's just
in the hot tub.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's awesome.
No, it was impressive though, and Scott's right. I know that Rips just said this in his post game interview. I mean, on the boards they're just nuts. They have this other freshman kid, Cal Kohler, or is that who it is? Cal Kohler.
And they also have Fogus was back, and that's
And
another
they're
6'4" kid.
I mean, they just hit their first possession of the game, opening tip off. Whitehall wins it. They get 4 shots or 4 shots. I think it was 4 shots. It's like, yeah, they're going to score if you give them 4 shots every time they have possession.
That Camden is so slick aroround the basket. Like he can. And Ripster was kind of doing a gesture, like contorting his body. He goes, I'm going to look like a weirdo on the camera here, but he goes, he'll twist his body, and he knows he has a knack of that around the rim, where around the backboard, where he can.
That's actually hard to teach.
It is.
You
That's
can't
more
teach
of
it. That's a natural
thing.
And
That's
I asked
natural.
him how because I asked him, I got a hold of him. I did get him on the phone Saturday morning in Camden, and I said, how do you do that? He goes, it's just a lot of practice, just playing all the time and thinking about those things.
I
Body
also
control.
think
But
that-
desire.
No,
He like
I
to
agree.
be a great rebounder to do that. That is all like you just want it bad, right?
Yeah.
Like
Then how many big guys have you seen? They get the rebound, they just slam it off the backboard. He has nice touch
that's
off
because
it.
he's not like a big guy. He's
Right.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
he is. He's like
he
a
is.
guard forward type. But
So
he's an animal.
Best
man.
freshman in the conference, though.
Oh yeah,
Do we all agree?
Dude, he's one of the best players.
Best
After
players,
watching him
possibly
against
best
North
player.
Muskegon,
Yeah.
who's a top team and has been all year. I mean, he is one of the best players in the conference.
Can you guys like remember another freshman that was as impressive as him in the West Michigan Conference since you guys have been around? I couldn't think of one.
No.
I mean,
No.
when I was a senior, Jesse Deering from Mason County was up as a freshman.
Yep.
And he was good, but he was average.
He was a point
He was
guard.
an average guard. Even
was a
an
point
average
guard.
point guard. Like
He was a point guard.
Now, by the time he graduated, Mason County Central was pretty amazing.
was Namath up as a freshman or not? And I don't
don't
remember
know.
how
I don't
what he
remember
looked like
Drew.
as a
That's
freshman.
good. And I will
But if you can't remember, in my mind, that
That's-
means
yeah.
he
Spencer
even-
Kranitz, maybe. I don't know.
Kranitz was good.
To score 2,000 points, you're scoring 500 points.
Yeah.
That's a
a year.
lot of points.
I mean,
Wow.
you have to start your freshman year. So I don't remember that.
Yeah,
as
he was
clearly.
he was good. He was a scorer. He was a scrawny little kid, but
Yep.
he could score.
for sure.
I
Good
remember
shooter.
playing that. Yeah.
I've mentioned Lee Kakati was up as a freshman,
Yep.
and he was good. He had
Yep.
15, 18, 20-point games, but I don't think he was like Cam just has a complete game. I'm really impressed with this kid. I
No,
mean, and I
he
told
is
you
impressive.
preseason watching him in the summer.
No,
like,
yeah, you
he
did.
was going to be good.
It's so weird. Who was I talking to about this? He's babyface. Like he doesn't look. He honestly doesn't look like.
yeah, like
the
if you're
man
on the
that he
opposing
plays
team, you're like you look at him and you're like, oh yeah, this kid, no way, I'm going to bully this kid around.
Yep.
He's slick,
And he is.
really
I mean, he's tough and he plays hard and he jumps well and fundamentally he's as good as anybody.
Now the thing
He's
I love
solid.
about him too, and I hope it stays this way, is he's not a kid that specializes either. He's also very good in football and very good in track.
Yeah.
I hope he continues that because
think he will.
I think a lot of college coaches, and I just think it's great for kids to multi-sport just because of that competitive factor.
You know what else I love about him? He's humble.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch him play, and he just does the work.
Yep.
He does it. You don't hear him talking to refs. You don't hear him talking to other players. At least I haven't.
Yep.
Like he just does his job, and he does it well, and that's pretty. I think he's going to be a special player.
Yeah, he definitely is. It also helps his game too.
Going
right?
back to Scott's point about multi-sport athletes, I think that helps right there, right? They've already been in that position, right? In other sport, they've already been in that tough spot. Those single sport athletes, if they only play this one sport, they might not know how to handle the big lights, right? Where if you're a football player, if you're even let's go girls volleyball player, right? I remember Allie Hall, right? Going to the district finals against Whitehall for volleyball. The lights weren't too big for her, but maybe some of the other girls, it was when they were juniors. It was when they were juniors.
They'd never done it before.
They'd never been
'Cause
there
that's
before,
the
and they kind of shrunk a little bit where Allie rose up because she's a multi-sport athlete.
Learning how to
Did
play
it.
in pressure, right?
Right,
And there's something to be
that
said for
happens.
just flat out competing. I mean,
Yeah.
you learn how to just compete.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have your game on that given day, you learn other ways to get it
Other
done.
ways to get it done.
That's the beauty
right?
of him, though. Is you talk about Allie or kids like Cam, like they're humble to the point of they don't. I mean, they're doing the dirty work. They're not complaining.
Yeah,
they're
Cam
not,
does everything.
But they're also confident enough, clearly, to take control of the game, right? And you love to see it, and that's what makes a dangerous player in any sport, in my opinion.
Who wins? Who wins Thursday?
I think it's different with. I personally think it's different with rivalry games. I think anything can happen.
Absolutely.
I don't ever.
Who do you think's going to win?
I got
Thursday?
Whitehall by 7.
Okay, Scatter.
I do think this is probably the last truly legit
Task
test that they're going to have. I mean, I just don't see anyone else coming up.
I'm gonna, not to put any pressure on this kid, if Isaiah Atchison plays and keeps trending the way that he has, because I watched the last 2 games, I think Montague by 5. And all it's going to take is, like Bill said, if Montague shoots the ball well, they're dangerous. And they've got 4 or 5 guys on that team that can shoot. But the key is, if Isaiah plays, I mean, at Oak Ridge, he played awesome. He played well the previous game before that too. And like, if he gives that, if we could get a really great effort out of Isaiah, he's a game changer. Whitehall doesn't have anybody that can guard him if he plays the way he can. And I personally think that's probably who's going to guard Cam, to be totally honest with you, which will be interesting because,
because you just heard Chuck Rips just say that he doesn't have anybody that can guard
right,
Cam.
because Cam's 6'4", 6'3", and long,
and well.
So I think that'll be an interesting matchup, and I think Montague can nip them. They have to. They need it more too, right? If Montague wants any chance of staying in this, they have to win every single game out. So,
well, I think, and I said this, I go, if Montague plays inside out, right, goes inside early, right, and starts bringing that defense and scoring early with Isaiah or Brassfield. If they bring him in early and start then being able to kick it out to their shooters, which Montague has a lot of good shooters.
For sure.
Not just one guy can hit the 3. There's several. It could be a different game, but I'm going to pull a Herb Street on you guys and not pick the game because I'm calling it.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's
fair.
dirty.
That's fair.
Yeah, this is like game day right now.
Compared himself to Kirk Herbstreit. Jeez, OP.
I'll let it slide. That's
one
he's
podcast
calling
and he thinks he's Herbie. I mean, give me a
I'm not going
break.
to call it. I mean, I'm a Montague
Come on,
guy. I'm a
Brent
Montague
Musburger.
homer, right? I'm always going to cheer for Montague, but
Tarico.
But that's a tough game, and like I said, every game I've called for the boys right now, Montague has shot well.
Yeah.
So maybe Dave might want me to start calling every game and doing it, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. Well, it'll be a good game.
What do you think the difference maker is going to be? It could be like one person's name or one thing specifically. What do you think?
I think it's just rebounding for Montague. It's
flat
out.
That's where I wonder.
Effort.
Do they play Rodney and Isaiah on the floor together?
They
They
have.
do. He's been starting them.
Because
Last 2 games he
that's
started.
where I
Rodney?
think they can hang on the boards a little more if they can get those guys both out there being productive.
It's all effort. If Montague last game, Whitehall is going to give you effort. It might be chaos. It might be crazy. I think Cam settles that down a little bit. But they're going to give you effort. They're going to go hard to the point where they might get themselves in some trouble because of the effort they give. Montague last game just did not give effort. They quit playing. And that, to me, if they can keep that effort level up, and that Isaiah has had that the last couple games. I think he keeps that going. The rest of them kind of flow off that, and they keep giving effort. I think Montague's got the horses to do it. Right?
Yeah, Braden Johnson too. He's a good long frame.
Long frame, big kids. That's what I mean. Like they match up. They're a tough matchup for anybody.
That's the biggest thing. So I called the Fremont game against them, and Fremont, give them credit, they were okay, but they're not. Montague played well, shot well, but Montague didn't rebound.
Right.
I mean, shot went up. It was a one and done, and they're going the other way. If Montague didn't hit the shot, Fremont was getting the ball.
Yeah.
And just sitting there, and that's the second time I've seen that where Montague just like that shot goes up and nobody even bothers.
Yeah.
The big guys are standing at the 3-point line.
Yeah.
And that you got to have
crash
3-4 guys crashing every single time.
I will say the last game against Oak Ridge, Isaiah definitely boarded really well, and I don't think Rodney's played real great the last couple games.
But he's strong.
But he's strong. If the both of those guys get going at that, then it'll be a classic. I think it'll be a great game. That's what I hope for. So.
Yeah, I think it will be too.
Should be.
I really do. Who knows?
Should be.
Well, you got one up there that I'm interested in. Bill, we were talking the other day because Hayes had 40 the other night.
Right.
About guys that had 40. And I mentioned Jared Hayes, who I played with, had 39 twice, 38 one other time. And Zach and I were texting back and forth, like, who else have we seen at a high school level get 40? So I texted Zach an article. Lee Kakati had 41 my senior year against Shelby. And I knew he was there. Like, he scored a ton of points. Yep. Did anybody else you can think of?
Schrader's high point was 36. against
There's
Oak
a lot
Ridge.
of guys in the. No, I'm not discrediting.
Yeah,
no, lots of guys in the mid-30s.
There's a lot of guys in the 30s.
I mean, but Coverly probably had 20 in that game too, right? It's like it's not. I mean, there was a lot more points scored, but
who
I
do
don't
we
know.
have at 40?
I'd say there's probably Wallace. J.R. Wallace probably did.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Back when I played.
I don't recall anyone local. I remember when Keith Appling scored 49 in the state finals against Kalamazoo Central.
Well,
Yeah.
Neitzel too.
Neitzel had 36, and
Neitzel,
I know he's had 40s.
Neitzel went off all the
40-point
time.
games, yeah.
I mean, that
And
dude
he had
was-
36 against Detroit Renaissance
But
in the semis.
I'm trying to stick with just
40.
West Michigan
Local.
Conference
Right.
or just
Yeah.
local guys. Like
Man, I don't know.
So we have Kikati, we have
Yeah.
Kranitz, we
Kranitz
have
had to-
Kranitz, we know.
Hayes.
Thrower never had those games.
He probably did.
I don't know if he
had
ever got to
40.
40. They were so well balanced.
They
Like,
were because
like-
he was the
And
point.
I don't think Deontay
It is-
Davis ever had 40 either. I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, no, you know who we're missing? Barnes had 40 last year, like from
Yeah, he
OD,
did.
That's true.
numerous
Oh
times.
yeah, he had a few times.
Yeah, he had 40
He
against
did.
us. I wasn't happy about that.
And
But
then what's his name this year?
This year, Darius Williams.
Williams
had
hit
50.
50. Yeah. But West Michigan Conference, we were struggling to kind of find somebody.
Yeah, you're right. The West Michigan Conference is. I mean,
Yeah.
I really don't. Other than those, I think 3. I'm not sure.
So I was talking to Dave Osborne a little bit about just 40-point games and scoring. You know, we've had this running theme of like scoring been down. And so Dave was telling me last night that I want to say his senior year, they scored 110 points in a game. And I'm like, and then I sent you a picture of I think we scored, and we were
90.
not good, right? 92 against Ravenna, right? Like, you just don't see that
No.
anymore. In that same article too, there was kind of a roundup. There wasn't a game under like 76, 77 points.
Well,
scored.
I remember we got beat. I think it was OV when they had like Matt Smith and
Oh,
those
yeah.
guys,
And
and
Lowell
like
and-
Lowell Whitaker. Those guys. I mean, they won the opening tip, and Lowell threw him a oop on the first play, dunk. I think we lost like 124 to like 75. Right.
Right.
I mean, they just blew us out of the gym, but we still scored 75 points.
Right, yeah,
Today, you score 75 points, you're winning.
Yeah.
It's true.
Did you see the women's basketball score from last night?
Which
U
one?
of M and Iowa.
Oh, yeah, that was
98
crazy.
to 90.
What was
Really?
that? What that girl had how many points?
The one girl from Iowa had 46.
46.
Iowa scored 36 points in the fourth quarter.
The girl, she pulled up from the logo
That's nuts.
at Michigan. She shot it from the M.
Michigan's really good. They're like 6th in the nation.
That's awesome.
You know?
And Iowa's what, 12th, I
Yeah.
think, or something like
Yeah,
21st
they're
or
20,
something.
Yeah, 21st, something
But
like that.
but she's good. Like
That's good.
like
Legit.
good. And pulled, like I said, she came across half court and just pulled up.
Yeah.
Nobody was in front of her. She could have got to the 3-point line easily, but she just bang nailed it. It was amazing.
Well, talking about great players, Zach's had something near and dear to his heart. We've been talking about all conference selections, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Zach?
Yep. Well, I think that number one, I've done a little research on how they choose all conference in basketball
Right.
because, as you know, the all conference selection process is different per sport,
Which is
And-
weird to begin with.
It is weird. It's very weird. But from my understanding, the process for basketball specifically factors in league placement, and guarantees everyone at least an honorable mention kid, but does not assign a certain number of all conference kids to each placement.
So can we talk about that statement first?
Sure.
Why, I know this isn't PC to say, but why should every team be guaranteed an honorable mention or any? Why should any team start out the year guaranteed regardless of play? Because I feel like your play is what determines where you're at.
Feels like you're cheapening it.
Feels like you're cheapening
Yeah.
it to me. So I would say right there I have a problem with it. Now I know probably why they did it. Good intentions, right? You don't want somebody to get left out in a sense. But how do you guys feel about that?
Well, being in on these meetings, all conference meetings for girls basketball, it's a lot of politicalness too, right? I would go in my first year, kind of was the first year trying to figure it out. We weren't very good. I took over a team that was 1-20, right? But I had a player in Deanna Panetta that was probably the best point guard in the conference, right? And going in, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have this girl and this girl kind of, but I'm not going to nominate B girl until honorable mention comes around, right?
Right.
Well, that hurt me, right? Everybody else is throwing these players up. I'm like, she shouldn't be up there. She shouldn't be up there. Her stats are terrible, but they're throwing everybody up right away, and then it's all voting. Then it's a political thing, right?
So when you did it, they nominated.
You nominate,
voted.
throw them all up on the board with stats. I came in with stat sheets from my stat program for each girl, right? Highlight, and then you would highlight certain stats, right? Like, so if they were a great scorer, you'd highlight their points per game and maybe like a second stat.
Did you ever look at a stat sheet though and be like, because look, like we have all got. There's a high level of inconsistency with how people do statistics across the league. Did you ever look at a stat sheet and be like, yeah, no way.
Right.
No way she averaged 9 assists a game, right? Like
I would. I mean, obviously, most of the time in conference, you have 2 games to look at that stuff, right? So you're like,
yeah, but you're scouting. You got
scout. Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, it was a lot harder to scout when I was coaching than it is now.
It was, yeah.
Right?
Right.
Not every gym had a camera sitting up in it that you could just get on and trade film. You had to go with the camera
and
film it yourself.
or get them to send you some film.
Yeah, which was not easy at
I'll
the
say
time.
all conference is a lot easier than all state in a lot of ways because I sat on the Associated Press all state panels for football and basketball, and you can have a kid with dynamite stats, but who are they playing?
That's the other thing.
And how hard is their coach pushing them, or or that reporter from that area pushing their kids?
Well, that's what I did
things.
when I would vote for Miss Basketball or Mr. Basketball. I would look at who they're playing, right?
Yeah.
If they're playing nobodies,
Stats
and
can lie sometimes a little
blowing
bit.
them out. I'm not. No,
The same
sorry.
thing goes for, I mean, on a smaller scale for stats in basketball too, right?
Yeah.
You have a kid that he scores 35 points against, Mason County twice, and then he Houdinis when he's playing Norman Muskegon, Whitehall, Ravenna.
Right.
Well, and that goes back to the article I sent you about Kakati, right?
Right.
Like the telling thing was Shelby was ranked 6th in the state that year. Kakati scored 41 against them,
Right.
like a great team, and he had 18 in the 4th when it mattered, right? Like when you get them matters. But the question is, should they start the season with a guaranteed spot?
I don't think they should.
What do you think, Zach?
I think that making the statement that everyone gets at least an honorable mention kid is okay. I
Really?
think that, yeah, because I don't view honorable mention and first team all conference as the same thing, and that's tough. In some regard.
So if you're looking at it though, and you're saying you're one of the best 15 players in the conference, right? 10 all conference, 5 honorable mention.
Yep. But is that how it is?
Some years there's ties. Some years there's ties, so there's
Yeah.
less honorable mentions, so they'll give them all conference because there's ties.
Where I have
Yeah.
a problem with it is when I don't have a problem with it if there's like an unlimited amount, and there shouldn't be of honorable mention kids. But once you take away from a kid who really is deserving, that's where the problem is.
That's where I struggle. So
That's where
say
there's
you
a
have
problem, I
an
think.
unbeaten or a winless team through the whole season, right? And you got a kid on that team, somebody from that team. Let's say all the players are subpar. You couldn't see one of their players starting on another team. That team's going to have an honorable mention kid. That their best kid might be the 30th best player in the conference.
Sure.
He's going to be honorable mention. So some kid that's in the top 15 is getting left out because you've preset, and you can say you don't care about honorable mention, but the goal is to reward the best players in the conference, right? Like, I mean, that would otherwise why have honorable mention or an award at all?
I get what you're saying.
So
I mean,
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think that the ranking should go out the door too. Then, like if Whitehall finishes first in the conference, that doesn't necessarily mean they get 2 kids.
So I would agree with you.
Okay.
I would agree with
Yeah,
that.
I would completely.
I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah, same principle.
Yep. Well,
So,
how do you feel?
I mean,
about this, guys?
Yeah, same way. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that goes right along with that. Just because someone wins a conference, I mean,
Slippery slope. In
it
my
is.
opinion.
But I will say though, maybe if it comes like tie-breaking type procedures where let's say players are virtually even, well, his team finished first and their team finished 4th.
maybe it's a tiebreaker. I don't know.
Maybe
And I think that
factors
kids
in.
that are
I don't think it's all
great,
black and white.
but don't always they bring a lot of intangible things at the table, get screwed in this type of situation.
Yeah.
If you're purely rating people on stats, for example.
Well, I think stats are a piece of it, but I don't think they can be the whole thing. No, I would agree with you on that.
But that's why I love. That's why I like honorable mention, because you got a kid that difference maker, not a top scorer, not a top rebounder, but this kid, or whatever. Then you can still make sure that they're getting honors.
Yeah, but you're not. Because you're actually your same logic could screw that kid from getting mentioned, because that kid that was the 30th best player that didn't do any of that is taking that accolade from him.
Right.
Because he doesn't even get an opportunity to be voted for because he's the third best player on his team. They finished third in the conference, so they only get 2 spots.
But you could not, as a coach, you can nominate more than just like one kid or 2
I
kids.
think the nomination process is silly.
It is.
Personally. Like what?
How is it any different than listing your top 10 players in the conference?
Because what happens is listing your top 10 players, every coach is voting for who they think are the best top 15 players, right?
Sure.
Nomination process, you can't even vote unless that person is nominated.
Does
that make sense?
So you're saying that you shouldn't trust coaches to nominate the kids that they think
I
are
don't
deserving.
think coaches should nominate the kids from their own teams.
I think
it's
it should be
inherently biased.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
And I think that by going to just voting, so if there's 4 of us with 4 teams here, we don't nominate our kids to be on the list to be voted for. We simply list out the best 15 kids in the conference.
With your kids included.
With your kids included, yes.
that'd be actually more fair because it is. It's a nomination.
Every coach is gonna be. I think there's gonna be coaches that have 7 kids of their own on the top.
Well,
And if they're the 7 best kids, I'm okay with that.
what coaches
Yeah, but
need to
they're never
understand,
going
too,
to.
sitting in on these all-state meetings especially was, I know we're talking all conference here, but all-state, if you put up every kid you have, that cheapens the argument for every kid. You're not going to get all these kids like all-state. You need to, and I know maybe on a special team there might be 3 or 4 that maybe deserve some kind of mention, but really it's a hard sell.
I'm just saying that every way is flawed, at least in some way, in some situation.
Yeah, I agree. There's no perfect solution.
As a coach, though, you know who the best players are. You know who you're game
telling
planning
you.
for. I don't need a stat sheet to tell me.
But what it does is it eliminates the I think the need to have to put somebody up. Does that make sense?
You're taking it out of the coach's hands,
right? Somewhat, right? Like you're taking I think you're eliminating some of the politics of it. Are you getting rid of it completely? No. Could a coach still put up his entire team as his top 10 players in the league?
Yep.
Absolutely. I can think back to when I played. I want to say Nate Baker was honorable mention. Nate got screwed because he was on a great team, right? There were 3.
Oh yeah.
2 unanimous all-conference players on that team, 1 all-conference player, and Nate, somebody felt like I think it just came down to we can't have 4 players on that team. And was he better than a lot of? Yeah, I think he might have been.
Yeah, you see that. You see that a lot.
Is the original is the first team list flawed? Then
well,
because without honorable mention, he's not getting any acknowledgement.
Sure, I think it just has to be voted for. I think I don't think there's a perfect way. I'm just saying, Nate might get knocked off that list if you made a mandatory team selection, whether it's honorable mention or not. He might get knocked off that list.
I think there's some guys sitting in this room right now that are going to have a tough time when it comes to nominating
guys
for Player of the Year in the conference.
We are definitely
going to be
have a hard
it'll
time.
be a lot longer debate than you'd think, probably.
Well, and Cam's making that a little harder, I would say.
I have a hard time believing Cam might not be involved in that.
Yeah, but and we said that before. Before we talked, we were like, we don't. Now it's
And that's the other thing. How many games can you miss in a league season and still be considered for all league?
I think it depends on the body of your work. I think could you
take out those games and then go with what he's done?
If you missed half the season, let's say, but he comes back and he averages 50 through the next 10.
Cam's case, he missed the first 2 games. So
Or like Jade Hovey from Hart. Okay, we're talking girls right now.
I think
by the way, she'd have been the player of the year.
She would have. Yeah, I think she would have.
And
that one's a little easier because she didn't play.
Yeah, but do you my point is, do you nominate? Does she get a nomination?
I think she didn't play, so I think you have to have.
I think she can because she played 2 games, 3
Did
games?
she play 2 games? What was her?
I don't know how
She
many
went
it
out
was.
against Shelby, right? Was
Yeah.
that when she went down?
Sadly, it
against
was
Shelby?
the exact day she signed.
And
She
she's
signed with-
averaging more than anybody on the leaderboard.
I think you have to go on what you did. I think there has to. So I would say you have to go back and look at what did she do in those first 2 games. Was it enough?
And I don't know how many games,
and
but it wasn't.
It wasn't very many.
Yeah, I don't know,
no.
but so that's what I would
2
say.
or 3. Yeah.
A person that did Tate didn't play at all last year, right? He did. He played. He got in. I think you have to look at what did he do in those games that he was in.
I agree.
So, that'll be a tricky one.
It's gonna be
It's gonna be.
an interesting debate. I have a feeling that we'll spend some time pretty heated in this conversation.
It might be easy too. You never know. I mean,
I
if three
hope
guys
so.
separate
See if they
themselves,
separate, there's some
I
games
mean,
to go
like
yet.
I don't. I think I can easily separate like 5 or 6, but deciding on a top 3 is going to be so hard.
I think I have one for sure that I know.
I don't think that anymore.
You don't.
I've changed since last week.
Guy drops 40 and you don't count that.
I think. Well, I thought. I guess I misspoke.
I just gave away who I think.
I think.
won.
I think he's top 3 for sure.
That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
Like I think in the top 3, because that's what we have to evaluate. Like who are we going to put up? I think.
What if Cam drops 40 next week?
I think Cam is what might make this easy, because to me, like, number 2, I kind of was I'm kind of no. 3 was where when we start talking, like, nobody separated.
I still
themselves.
think number 3 is tough.
You do?
I do too.
I've got a top 2 in my mind right now.
Yeah,
it's
I
the third.
Maybe
that's
we should
tough.
do a whole podcast.
I don't
just
know
picking
about
player of
this.
the year. That might actually be
That'd probably be a good one.
That'd probably be a good one, actually.
Be toxic.
Yeah,
It'd be good to listen to you guys argue
No,
about
it
it.
probably would be.
I mean, I'm like one of your only listeners, but you know.
Yeah, come on. There's like 7.
Yeah, wait a minute. Are you going to go back and
We're
listen to this
losing
podcast
metrics.
or not?
We're
'Cause
losing
I was
metrics.
I'll listen to it. Yeah,
Okay,
I gotta
good.
make sure I didn't sound like an idiot.
Okay.
So,
I was going to say we're going to lose our one listener.
no, Shannon listens, right?
Yeah,
my
Shannon
brother,
does.
my
There you
brother-in-law.
go. There you
Got
go.
2.
got 2.
Real quick, we got to touch on West Michigan Conference Wrestling. This last weekend, we had the conference wrestling tournament at Montague High School, and Scott was in the flesh. He was there.
Thanks to Jesse and Scott for covering that, by the way.
No, Tark.
Tark
the Shark.
did.
He did.
Tark the Shark did
Yeah,
it?
Jesse was with me at the Risers game.
Tark did it
Nice.
solo.
Nice. That's good.
No,
Awesome.
and it went well. You know, it was hiccup here or there, but we managed it. But it was Tim Stout made an appearance.
Stout was at a wrestling
Yep.
match.
Yep,
really.
he got Camden out of his hot tub and then got to the gym for wrestling. So, but no, he was there. But it was as expected, Whitehall dominated. But tell you what, Hart put up 185 points, which I think Whitehall had low 2, something like that. I mean, there wasn't a question that Whitehall was going to win it, but
Yeah.
Hart battled, and Ira Jenkins, of course, just dominated again. There's no surprise there. You're just wondering how quickly is this going to go.
The Grizzly Bear.
Scary
mauling people.
guy.
So I got a question on that. Since the conference expansion next year, do you think Whitehall continues to dominate
Yes.
those sports that they've
Yeah.
always dominated? So
wrestling
like
for
track,
sure.
wrestling, these individual team sports
I think
that
track, tennis, like there's going to be a lot of sports that are like that. It'll
catch
change.
up.
The
Basketball,
dynamic will change.
Ludington's pretty good in basketball.
Yeah.
So,
Ludington, according to a few people that have seen Ludington play this year, they steamroll anybody in the West Michigan Conference.
In basketball.
I'm just saying because of numbers, right? Whitehall's
yeah.
always been the biggest school in the conference,
right.
right?
Well, I think it does definitely change, but if you're talking wrestling specific, I think Whitehall's
Yeah,
still.
Well,
Because Hart
dominate-
used to be really good at wrestling, right? Hart was phenomenal at wrestling when I was in
They're
school.
still not bad.
Hart's-
Whitehall's
Hart's
just
pretty good.
insane.
Whitehall's in another league from everybody else, but the interesting thing about next year is that all the Zerps are going to be facing each other. You got the brothers, coach for Whitehall. Their dad coaches Fremont.
Oh.
So they'll be facing each other on the
Yeah,
regular.
that's true. I didn't
fun.
know about that. So, Max Brown lost, huh?
He did, which, as timing would have it, we just interviewed him last week for our profile of the week coming up, which he's still very deserving. He won 150. He's won 150 matches in his career.
Yeah.
He's a defending state champ.
Yeah, losses happen.
He just ran into a really good kid on a given day, Mason Cantu from Hart, who was, by the way, 38-1 now. He's finished top 5 I think
Who's
the
his
last
one
2
loss
years.
to, Max?
A guy from Stevensville Lakeshore that they both lost to. I know.
Oh,
I
really?
think it's the same guy. I'm
So
assuming
Max
it's the same guy.
and Mason have both lost to the same guy.
Same guy, but Max lost to the Lakeshore guy and then came back and beat him in a different tournament. But
They're
Max,
all right there.
They're all right there next to each other. Cantu got him 6-1 in the final match on Saturday. It was a match early on that I think there was maybe a semi-controversial call where if Max would have got a takedown or something, then maybe that might have changed the complexion of things. But Cantu deserved it. I mean, he's a good wrestler, and he's another 4.1 student, 150 plus wins. I mean, that's nothing.
Solid. Wrestling's strong in the West Michigan.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, some.
How'd old Cale Kappas do?
He won. He got his, and I don't know if he's a. would that make him a 4-time winner, or was he a 3-time winner?
I can't
Three-time, I
remember.
think.
I think it's
3-time winner in the
yeah.
conference. But yeah,
Right.
he's well over 150 now, and he's actually pushing for the school's all-time record.
So it went
for wins.
Whitehall, Hart, then who's third?
Montague.
Montague, then fourth.
Then it was,
Okay, I'm testing
Shelby.
Scott right now. Shelby.
and then Ravenna, Mason County Central, Oak Ridge.
Okay.
North
That surprises
North
me.
Muskegon
That
doesn't
Oak
have a
Ridge
team.
is-
Right.
surprises me that Oak Ridge isn't better at wrestling. I just
With how good their football
Yeah,
team is.
that's true.
Well,
Right.
they just got to get Mike Johnston out there in the singlet more, and then
That's
drum up some more interest.
Well, that's
True.
right because they didn't even have a team, did they?
They didn't.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I
They-
saw him. I saw him Saturday.
They struggle with some of those sports because I know same thing with golf. They've had a hard time getting field golf teams, and,
Yeah.
and they're one of the biggest schools in the conference, at least right now. So like, yeah. that's
I asked Johnston. I saw him sitting there because he's the one that had the singlet on, trying to drum up some interest. I go, was asking him about it. He goes, I can't get that dang thing off. I'm wearing it right now.
That's funny.
He's stuck.
He's so funny.
So you have good idea on the board, Zach. What does that mean?
I
Under wrestling?
don't know.
I don't remember what
I got a good idea for wrestling. We
What
still
do you
need
have?
to have Jesse
wrestle
take on
Ira?
Ira.
That's
No,
not.
we don't,
I don't.
man.
That is just not.
Why
a
do
good
you want to
idea.
hurt Jesse like that?
well,
Maybe I
Tart
should change
Tart
it to
got
not
to
a
see
good idea.
Tart got to see Ira Saturday. I'm like, you still think Jesse should?
Ira's
Line up
right
against him?
forearm is bigger than Jesse's whole body.
Yeah.
The
No,
only
it's
reason
not.
I want to see it is because Jesse is so adamant that he can do it and would do it.
That he can
doesn't
hang.
care if he'd lose. He's like, I'll hang, I'll do it.
Running around the mat doesn't count.
It wouldn't matter. I'd grab him by his leg and drag him back in.
Ira's gonna
Wasn't that Will
literally
Ferrell movie
twist
against
him
the
up
bear?
into a
Yeah,
fist.
he's running.
Yeah, no, that'd be bad.
Like
be bad.
I think he's underestimating how strong Ira is.
He
Right?
is.
Like,
And
like
quick.
you can be wiry, but like
Kara's laughing.
Now I'm gonna. So Keith Nelson,
Yeah.
Alex Trevino, they would wrestle all the time. Same team, right? You know, Keith is the heavyweight. Alex is 130 maybe. Alex would beat him just about every time.
yeah, but Alex also went and fought MMA. And
That was
like,
after, but I'm just
he
saying in
was
high school.
pretty legit, right?
Ira
Like,
is a heavyweight and like the most shredded
But
guy
he's
I've
so
ever
quick.
Right, but Keith was super strong. But like Alex would get out. We watch it in advanced PE every day. They'd wrestle. It seemed like,
I'm-
and he would get out of these holds that you didn't think he was going to get out of, and then all of a sudden reverse them on
Well, the
him.
thing
and-
that makes
Zach- Zach's gonna pull up the video of Ira.
seen. I am.
the thing that makes Ira so tough too is he's wrestling at heavyweight, so he can handle the physical part of that. But he's still athletic enough because he's 225, 230, whatever he is right now, and just strategically, just everything he does is so sound.
It was a GMA
Nice
one,
tough.
Zach, I think.
Oh, you
Yeah,
talking
I'm
about
trying
that
to
one, the
find
GMA
it.
one?
Yeah.
Because I just posted
bring
one
the
on him this
videos.
morning too, but that was from the conference.
That's where I had to find it, and then
We're
Right
testing
now.
Zach right now on his ability to find a video.
right there, Zach. Third row, like fourth from the left.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I think before we watch this, though, we're probably gonna have to wrap up the pod. We are just over an hour.
Just
so.
over an hour.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Anybody else have any last final comments?
Go Montague.
Oh, geez, here we go. I'll root for
Sorry,
my
guys.
Vikes. I'll root for my Vikes this week.
I got. It's gonna be a great. game.
Here's my
It is gonna be a
question:
game.
we had both of us out at the game of the week last week. Should we do the same thing, or should I maybe go somewhere else, or should I go home?
I told him he should do what he wants.
Do
to
whatever
do.
you want to do.
That's what I told him.
All right.
Stop asking us.
What do you think? Ravenna, North
See,
Muskegon that night.
don't answer.
Ravenna,
him.
North
I mean,
Muskegon.
I think Brent should go to Ravenna, North Muskegon. He loves
I am
BB.
definitely
He
not.
does
love
I
BB.
am. I will
he's a-
definitely be watching my boys.
He loves all.
Well, I
all
know
people
you.
named
I know your
BB.
boys are playing, but you are a pretty big BB fan. Every podcast I hear you bring up BB at least once.
Yeah, I love him. He's a good player. So my other players around the conference that I love, you guys will be surprised. I love Weaver from Oak Ridge. I just
Interesting.
like the way he plays.
He had a
of
big
course,
game
I
against Shelby.
Yeah, I love my Q guys. Right, like that
I
goes without saying.
love Troy McManus.
I love McManus. I think McManus is.
I think he's.
I
legit.
liked
He's
him
really
more
good.
after I interviewed him.
Yeah, he's
even,
just a
like,
nice kid. Works hard. Like I just
big
like the way
shots,
he
plays great. I like Hayes.
plays. Yeah, Joe is a good dude too.
I like Parker Hovey.
Parker
I
Hovey's
think
good.
Parker needs to tone down the crap talking sometimes, but like overall, I like he takes a lot on. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players.
There's
in
a
the
lot of
conference that I
players,
like.
yeah.
I mean,
After that profile of the week, I think Champ's a cool kid. That
He
was-
is.
Yeah, the young brothers are really
He's
nice.
got, Champ and
Champ's-
James got the cool thing going on.
Dude, I like those-
the
both
hair
those
and
kids.
you just can tell they're cool kids.
So on our way out, so I watch a lot of Rick Shields golf YouTube channel. Like Rick Shields
yeah.
is great,
Yep.
right? So he's playing with Beef Johnson in a tournament, and he asked a question about what 5 golfers would be on his 5-man soccer team, right? So he's picking. So my question to you guys is: we've talked about the conference, we've talked about all conference, we've done. Who would be your starting 5? Picking any player in the West Michigan
That's
Conference.
fair. We can have that as homework for next.
Oh, you want to
Let's
bring
do
that
that
up
next
next
time.
week?
Yep.
Man, all right.
Yep.
They want to
That,
prepare.
that means Zach's.
They wanna
that means
prepare.
we're way over, and Zach's like, Brent, shut your mouth.
That's true.
That's
yeah,
true.
we're over.
We're at an hour 25.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we're way over.
He said a little over an hour. I'm like, we're almost 30 minutes.
I was trying to be nice, really.
When Joe Rogan's going, he doesn't stop.
That's true,
He
he
just keeps
doesn't.
it going.
That's right.
So.
He definitely doesn't. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Van Dyke Mortgage, North Grove Brewers, and Shepherd & Shepherd. We appreciate you guys tuning into episode 16, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
See you.